Human Resource Officer and Vice President at Maruti Suzuki India Limited. With over 30 years of experience in strategic HR planning, he excels in industrial relations, change management, and people development. Since joining MSIL in 2012, right before the infamous industrial unrest, he has been instrumental in revitalizing labor relations at the Manesar car plant, guiding AMSIL to consistent success. Prior to his current tenure, Shri Lal has honed his expertise at global giants like Electrolux, Goodyear, and Capro, culminating in his role as head of HR of Ingersoll Rand's Industrial Technology Business. A postgraduate from Xavier Institute of Social Services, Ranchi, he began his journey at Tata Steel. Recognized as one of the 20 most impactful HR leaders, he has steered AMSIL to Employees Excellence at the 22 Economic Times Awards. Shri Lal's unwavering commitment, visionary leadership, and empathy make him a celebrated figure in India's HR landscape. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Mr.
The Organizing Committee of United Consciousness Conclave 2025, distinguished guests, speakers, delegates, my fellow panel members on the dais. It is indeed a privilege and an honor for me to be standing here in front of this august gathering. The subject for discussion today would have a different connotation, especially for a person like me who represents the industry. And before we actually talk about the culture of peace, maybe that I would ask and invoke this thought in everybody present here, that are we talking about the culture of peace right from the beginning? And that too related with the discussion or the topic which relates to gender equality and participation. The different connotation which I expressed is more to do with the value system, because my personal opinion would still be there in terms of revisiting our values before we actually talk about the equality and participation, and that too in the context of culture. So revisit the value which is related to trust, also related to acceptance, and perhaps related to equality and synergy. And why I'm saying all this, that if I have to go back to the history, the good old ancient days, even then the participation had a different meaning, and people looked at equality in a different context altogether. Just because the feeling of oneness existed long time back, even during the early years of our own freedom struggle, if we look at the equality in terms of the gender had a much different impact than what we witness today. Maybe that I would be sounding little biased, but the generation to which I belong, it has also seen moral degradation over a period of time. And that perhaps was a major setback when we talk about culture of peace, involving gender, involving all forms of gender in order to achieve equality and peace. We as leaders, we are duty bound to create opportunity, and perhaps that is what is our foremost job. Today we are talking about the objective in order to establish a culture of peace in the country and the world. The spirit of unity, welfare, service and spirituality, we heard the previous session where in-depth understanding was given on the subject like yoga. Ecology, education and demography, including inclusion and participation, perhaps is what we are looking at for a sustainable economy. We are also talking about inclusiveness. If I talk about the industry to which I belong, I represent the country's largest car manufacturing company, which produces more than 20 lakh vehicles per annum. And this company is going to produce in next 6 to 7 years, perhaps double the capacity. So we have targeted for ourselves by 2031 to produce more than 40 lakh vehicles per annum, which means there is immense growth, immense opportunity, and opportunity for everyone. The organization today is thinking to provide systems, procedures, policies which is gender agnostic. And when I say gender agnostic, it means that we have to have the right mix everywhere within the systems, within the various functions of the organization. And that is how we look at it. Though with a lot of pride we say that we employ females, and we not only employ females because it had nothing to do with the gender, because what is more important is to see that we actually have the best practices in terms of having equality in all forms. So whether it is the LGBT community, whether it is PWD community, whether it is others, whether it is ex-servicemen, all get equal opportunity in order to participate in the growth of the organization. Gradually, we started developing our own systems in the manner where we had to create the right opportunity for everyone. We also saw because our culture, the organization which started about 41 years back, was primarily a Japanese company. It started as a public sector organization way back in 1983, but with Japanese participation in the management, and gradually we became a 100% subsidiary of Suzuki Motor Corporation of Japan. Now, if I have to go back again little in the history and explain the way what we learned from this country. Japan is one such nation which runs primarily on trust. And that is what we have learned from our parent organization. The trust is one of the most important factor, and today why I am reiterating this fact, because again, since we are talking about culture of peace, trust would be the major factor to be kept under consideration. And that is how we inculcate these best practices. When we talk about the culture, when we talk about the way we run the organization, we feel that what is important for us is to create a fair, open, and a positive, inclusive, and empowered organization where everybody gets a fair chance to participate. Apart from the fact that I mentioned earlier about the synergy, there is a high focus on internal communication, because that is one of the most important facets of management which we have learned over the years. Investment in people development also became a critical subject for us, and not only in terms of how do we see the future, but also in terms of technology which we are going to embrace. And then again, the fact comes, how do we ensure that equal opportunity is met and given to everyone? Career development and career growth also was one of the most important area of development and focus in order to ensure that everyone participates, everyone gets the proper due opportunity to develop and grow. Today, I feel I take a lot of pride that almost close to 64 female heads of department are working in the organization, and they have taken over this assignment very successfully, and they are trying to develop more such leaders for our future. There has been a defined strategy and a framework on diversity and wellness. In fact, last year it was a conscious decision that we would open up a department for diversity and wellness. And this department, ever since it came into existence, we have seen various different opportunities which came to us, to the fact that for the first time we introduced a completely dedicated female engine assembly line in one of our facility. And gradually these numbers are increasing, and we have taken into account that practically at all our location, wherever the manufacturing process is taking place, we will have dedicated lines. And not only dedicated lines on the shop floor, but we are also trying to create an opportunity for people with disability to also work on the shop floor, and whatever needs to be done would be done. Then we also have to talk about the process which is involved in order to ensure that we are seen as a fair, gender agnostic, participative management. We took the fact that complete revolution will not take place at one point of time. Then it is important that we define it into different phases and see how best we can link it. There was a special emphasis in terms of bringing well-being. And when I talk about well-being is in all respect, whether it is mental well-being, whether it is physical well-being, whether it is emotional well-being, social well-being, to the extent financial well-being. And that is how I correlate it with equality and bringing in a culture of peace. This whole concept came with the fact that post-COVID, we learnt our lessons the harder way, and we also witnessed some of the worst phase, especially during the second phase of COVID, where we were losing our own colleagues. We tried our best to help not only the society, but including our own employees. We had to create a function called disaster management and business continuity, which was established overnight, in order to ensure that we provide right support to our people, we provide right support to the local administration, to the government, and also to the society at large. This was one such function which helped us in creating the feeling of oneness. And that is how we started also thinking in terms of creating the joy of mobility for everyone. We also started thinking in terms of how do we create a situation wherein it is possible for everyone to feel aligned, and there is a sense of belongingness towards the organization and towards the larger picture of the business. Today we are talking about value creation. We are talking of different mobility solutions for the nation, and I am happy to announce that by 2030-31 we would be an organization which would be producing more than 40 lakhs of vehicles. We would be generating more than 2 lakh of employment within the ecosystem, and perhaps that would give us a lot of mileage in terms of how do we see the gender participation and equality. The growth is certainly not possible in case we do not have a similar philosophy to inculcate. We are looking at this opportunity in a bigger way, in a much bigger manner, in order to improve the society, and not only improve the society but also participate in making the vision of the Prime Minister Viksit Bharat by 2047. Thank you so much.